Welcome to Davos Direct right here on ET Now. I'm Supriya, Shrinate, bringing you all the action from the World Economic Forum. Now, this summit is like no other. It's happening at a time when there are communal tensions right across the border in France. It's happening at a time when the host nation itself is facing a currency volatility like no other. It's also happening at the time when the US is recovering, but there are deep fault lines that exist in Europe. China is slowing down, and amidst it all, there is, of course, that one shining pocket that is India. So this is a new global context. 2,500 most influential policymakers, business delegates and opinion shapers will be meeting here at this beautiful ski resort to discuss all of that and a lot more. Who is in attendance? What are the issues that will be looked upon? We bring you all the details in this report.
It's time for the world's 2,500 most powerful elite from politics, business and economy to gather in the Swiss ski resort of Davos once again for the World Economic Forum, which many believe is the most important edition of the summit. With Islamic terror right next door in France, a currency turmoil in the host country, deep economic and political fault lines in Europe, a slowdown in China, a crash in global crude prices, all of this pointing to a new global context, the topic for this year's summit. But amidst all this pain, India seems to be the one shining spot under a new political leadership. Finance Minister Arun Jaitley will lead India's government delegation in Davos, along with Piyush Goyal, Chandrababu Naidu, Devendra Fadnavis, Arvind Subramaniam and Amitabh Kant. Make in India is the big sales pitch India will make, and there is evidence to be found everywhere, from the lion mounted on buses to the Indian Adda branded the Make in India lounge. India Inc. is present in full strength as well, from Davos veterans like Rahul Bajaj to Cyrus Mistry, Mukesh Ambani, Sunil Mittal, Chanda Kochar, Arundhati Bhattacharya, Uday Kotak and many others. Global leaders like Angela Merkel, Francois Hollande, besides corporates like Jack Ma, Satya Nadella, Marissa Mayer, Sheryl Sandberg amongst others will brainstorm the new global context. In a world that's witnessing distorted global growth, pockets of acute weakness and some secular stories like India and US. But the big question that many will debate is whether America can be the single engine of growth. Can monetary stimulus revive the world? And how will the world cope up with the rise of geopolitical and communal tension? The cold in Davos should throw up some warm, comforting answers. Gauri Dwivedi, Supriya, Shrinate, ET Now, Davos.
Like we pointed out in our first story to begin with, that Finance Minister Jaitley will not just be leading the government delegation, but he's also likely to make a strong sales pitch for Make in India. And which is why you actually have posters like the one behind me plastered all over town. There's branding on the buses. So there is a lot of resonance as far as Make in India is concerned. But there are obvious questions. How easy will it be to make in India? Is there a compelling case for it? What are the enabling levers around Make in India? So be it the land acquisition bill, be it the labour sector reforms, be it environmental clearances. Is the government willing to bite the bullet on a lot of these measures? And these are the tough questions that Mr. Jaitley and his team are likely to face from investors globally who are expected to meet him here. We posed the question to some of the members of corporate India. We were in conversation with Rahul Bajaj, with son Sanjiv in tow, and of course the very outspoken Ajit Gulabchand with SP Shukla from Mahindra & Mahindra.
I don't want to make my notoriety more current. You people made me notorious in 93, 94 by making me the sole member of the Bombay Club.
That's right.
What did Bombay Club say? Make in India. They didn't talk of protectionism. We only said, it's on record every time, that I want a level playing field. That was taken as a euphemism for protectionism by the media and the people.
That's right.
But I didn't want, I had been arguing against license permit Raj for ages in my public speeches. So I was very happy with the liberalization, but I wanted a level playing field. I have no time to go into details of that.
Right.
A level playing field for Indian manufacturers. So when our Prime Minister, whom everybody admires in India and abroad, talked of Make in India, I hope he didn't mind my saying this, I thought I have a second member of the Bombay Club. So, of course, Make in India.
Your father says Make in India, of course, you're not being asked to push servicing on the back foot or put anything of that away. You represent the finance industry. Do you believe India should play to its strength? Why not push services? Why have this whole manufacturing initiative where China anyways is the world leader? Do we have the elbow room to get some of that ground?
So if you see globally, in most economies that started off as being manufacturing economies, you need the basic manufacturing foundation that creates large part of the economy, which then services goes and fulfills. And as you correctly said, we are actually both in financial services and insurance.
That's right.
What do we finance? We finance those people that go and make stuff and buy stuff, and we insure the same. So services, and in this case financial services, clearly goes hand in hand with manufacturing. And so that's why it's not either or, it's both. That's what we need.
Fair enough. Sir, if I may ask you, when China took off this whole manufacturing initiative, we saw huge tax incentives being given. The question that I want to ask you is, when Finance Minister Jaitley comes here to sell this whole Make in India initiative, people who want to manufacture in India will turn around and ask them, what kind of tax incentives can you give us? So A, do you believe India has the elbow room, India has the fiscal space to give tax incentives like this? And can manufacturing be a success without the tax breaks?
I wouldn't worry too much about tax breaks. I would worry about simplification of the tax system. Even the DTC, as and when it comes, should be simple, and GST should come. Now it's coming from April 2016.
That's right.
I hope all states are on board, and I hope there are hardly any exemptions. Definitely not petrol, gasoline, things like that. Alcohol, I don't mind. So that has to come.
And the government has gone in as far as land acquisition reforms are concerned to tap the ordinance route. A, how hopeful are you that this is going to meet the mettle in Parliament? That's point number one. And point number two is, do you believe the legislation in its current form now supports the government's Make in India pitch?
The legislation in the current form is much, much superior than the earlier one, though the earlier government doesn't agree with that at all. I think they are wrong. The fact that the prices at which one can buy, including rehabilitation, etc., is not being changed, takes adequately care of the farmer. And I go a step further. Under the old thing, you would not have had acquisition. They themselves have 5 years, maybe longer. When will the farmer get his money? And many people would give up buying land and go somewhere else, go abroad. So farmer would have lost out. Here farmer will benefit because that they have not touched the money. The ordinance will not get through in the Rajya Sabha. I'll be very surprised it does. It has to be passed within 6 weeks of the budget session starting, which will start somewhere around 20th. They are going to decide today, the Cabinet Committee on Political Affairs in New Delhi. So the only way for this one, the labour reforms, if they are going to be major ones, etc., is the joint session. They have to extend their hand of cooperation and friendship. The ruling party, they do have a bigger responsibility than the opposition. I mean, they were the opposition till May, and they did the same thing, let's face it.
Exactly.
I think the insurance bill will be passed because the Congress is supporting 49. So hopefully it will be passed in the Rajya Sabha. It didn't get passed in the winter session because it didn't come for voting.
And we spoke about the labour sector reforms just when we started. We are seeing state governments bring about changes. So Rajasthan is looking at it and Madhya Pradesh is looking at it. What sort of labour sector reforms are required for manufacturing to really take off in India? And do you think there will be political will to go ahead and bite the bullet on labour sector reforms?
That's a tough one. Whether it's a state like Rajasthan or Madhya Pradesh or whether it's the centre, it doesn't matter. Industries need the ability legally to adjust their workforce depending on demand for their products. Till that is available to them, they are not going to employ people, and they'll go either for capital intensive methods of production, or they'll have temporaries, or they'll have contract labour. All of that the unions are opposing.
For manufacturing to take off its land acquisition, its labour reforms, but the other bit that you started talking about is the environmental clearances. Many have come in the recent times. There is some sort of a speedy clearances that's happening, but do you also believe we risk environmental clearances vis-a-vis growth and development, and of course the concerns for environment that some people raise?
Difficult to say what will happen tomorrow, but I think the way this government is moving, under, I presume, the directions of the Prime Minister, Prakash Javadekar, who happens to be from my city called Pune, is doing a great job. And This government is, I mean, whatever else it may be, you may be a supporter, you may be an opponent, but it's not oblivious to the need for a clean environment for our children, for our grandchildren. Nobody wants a dirty environment. But there has to be a balance. We want sustainable development.
It has a large resource base, both people as well as mineral, as well as it is on the transport routes of the world. It's a big country in Asia with a huge domestic market by itself. What more you want is a compelling reason.
What were the previous governments doing? There's internal debate about make in versus make for India. Do you believe India should focus on internal demand, or should we actually woo the world to come make there and for domestic production to happen there?
The first thing in Make in India is capital